Right now I have Gurria, who is the Secretary General of the OECD, at 5 o'clock this afternoon. He will be speaking to the Chancellor, Angela Merkel. Mr. Gurria, what is your message for Angela Merkel at 5 o'clock today?
We are meeting together with the heads of the IMF, of the World Bank, of the ILO and the WTO, and myself. This is the third meeting we have with Angela Merkel about how we can coordinate better with the leaders, but also among ourselves, in order to address some of the most pressing, some of the most urgent challenges that the world economy is facing.
Well, I mean, Europe is facing a huge challenge at the moment with the risk of contagion. How much does Germany have to be held responsible for its prevarication and the eventual speculation against the markets that we're seeing right now?
It's not a question of pointing fingers. The question is, it has to be done now. It has to be done very fast. It's not the question of the danger of contagion. Contagion has already happened. This is like Ebola. When you realize you have it, you have to cut your leg off in order to survive. And it's already having very deleterious impacts in the markets. It's contaminating all the spreads and distorting all the risk assessment measures. And it also is threatening the stability of the financial system again. In a way, it's like another angle of the same crisis because we did not stop it in time.
But we didn't stop it in time, and partly that is because the European Union just does not seem to have the mechanism to be able to cope with this. How much confidence are you that the European Union can't just stop muddling through as it's doing and actually come up with a solution?
Well, on the 2nd of March, I made a very big point that Greece should go to the IMF. Then in Greece, in the middle of March, I said, go to the IMF. And then right now, we are where we are. It's a bad situation, but we shouldn't make it worse. So now the combination of the Europeans plus the IMF together in a large enough package that will send a message to the markets and saying nobody's going to lose money here. It's going to be all right. There's no need for any additional measures, except they got to do it fast. It has to be money on the table, large enough to have any relationship with the not only the immediate maturities of the Greek debt, but also in a 6 months, 1 year horizon, so that it'll give time for the Greek program to yield its results.
But we already have a program which is going to go for 6 months. It's going to go to the end of 2010. Are you talking about a multi-year program of maybe 3 or 4 years where the European Union and the IMF say we're going to put enough money on the table for Greece to be able to do its refinancing for that period of time?
It is very difficult to solve the problem of a sovereign credit by solving the next 3 months or the next 6 months, because you know the markets are just going to be waiting for that time to come, and they discount that very fast. We have to give a vision, we have to give a scope that is larger, and we have to give a solution that is longer than simply the immediate maturities.
Immediate maturities means how long?
Well, let me tell you something. The experience that I have, and I have personally, having led a systemic debt exercise, which was Mexico's and then Latin American debt problems, is that you deal with, let's say, about 1 year in the horizon with great detail, and then maybe with less detail in the years to come. But you have to give a medium-term view to the markets. It's about assurance, it's about confidence, it's about trust.
But the solution to the Mexican problem involved a restructuring of the debt. Now, is that something that needs to be considered here?
If the markets do not react, if we don't act fast enough, if we don't put enough money and very clearly the availability of resources so that Greece can come out of its problems, then unfortunately it will be necessary to sit down and say, okay, well, stop this trade. You know, it's not working. The markets are not getting the signals. We are not communicating with the markets. The enormous amount of assets that we have, all of Europe and all of the IMF, they're ready to come in, and we can't get the signal right. Then we'll have to sit down and say, this is it, and then we'll just have to take a little longer and do something more structured. But what we cannot expect is for the Greeks to be tightening their belts and for all those savings to go to pay higher spreads to the banks. That is not financially feasible, that is not economically efficient, and it is not politically possible.
Jean-Claude Trichet, the head of the European Central Bank, he keeps on saying Greece will not default. Greece will not default. So why doesn't he put his money where his mouth is? Why don't we get the European Central Bank to buy sovereign debt in the secondary market and put a lid on this?
Frankly, the European Central Bank is doing a great job in supporting the Greek banks. Okay? That is keeping the system afloat. Many of the Greek banks are actually supporting the Greek government and some of the rollovers. But that's what the European Central Bank does. They don't lend to the governments directly in order to solve a solution like this one. It requires a structure that the Europeans did not have. In a way, they are putting together something in order to solve the problem that there wasn't an institutional structure in place. Okay, so they're doing that, but let's do it now, let's do it fast, let's not wait anymore. It festers in there, and the markets just get worse, and then it's more expensive and it takes longer to undo the damage.
Let's quickly look at the wider problem. I'm talking about the imbalances that exist within the European Union region. We have surpluses in Germany. We have deficits in the southern parts of Europe. What should be done to address that? Christine Lagarde has talked about it, increasing consumption in Germany. What do you say to that?
I think the German challenge is to change the productive model and to migrate, and when I mean migrate, I mean gradually, to a model in which you have more service-based and more knowledge-based economy rather than simply based on exports of manufactured goods. Make stronger internal demand as a source of growth, but you have to praise the Germans because they save more, because they invest more in technology, and because they're exporting more. You can't blame them for that.
Okay.
And it's a good example for the rest of the countries.